Hi and welcome everybody. Today we'd like to discuss gender equality with you. We would have loved to do it in person. Unfortunately, for obvious reasons, we are now bringing this to you virtually. So please do comment and share, and let's get a real discussion going on the social media channels. I'm Elena, I'm 25 years old and I live in London. And on behalf of two great organizations, IMPACTR and NOW, I'm bringing this debate to you today. IMPACTR is a global community with a shared vision to accelerate the sustainability revolution. Located all around the world, we act globally, but think locally. NOW is a disruptive global movement pushing humanity to work as one to solve and tackle world's greatest challenges, bringing humanity all together. And this ranges from topics such as climate change all the way through to fiscal justice issues. Let me quickly introduce you to my virtual panelists today.
My name is Wubetu Shimilash. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Simien. Simien is a company that provides convenient, efficient, and unique tour service in Ethiopia for global tourists while empowering the local communities. Our goal is to use our business to address issues that are affecting our communities in Ethiopia, such as inequality and lack of educational resources.
Hello, my name is Mosiashvili. I'm from Georgia. Currently, I'm based in Sweden, and I'm an advocate for gender equality, sexual and productive health and rights, and meaningful youth participation.
Hi everyone, my name is Lara. I'm Italian, but I've been living in London for 6 years. I am part of NOW. I will be soon joining them as their campaign manager, and I am super excited about it.
And Nakul, a London-based fashion model who's also a very active plastic pollution activist. Now, only 3 out of 10 women around the decision-making table in 10 years from now, we don't think that's good enough. So with this in mind, I'd like to give the floor to my panelists, kicking off with my very first question. What is gender equality to you?
For me, gender equality means people are not judged by their gender or sexuality, but by their characteristics as humans. Gender equality means equal opportunities for all. Gender equality means equal access for resources. Gender equality means equal freedom. Gender equality means equal respect regardless of gender identity and sexuality. Gender equality means fighting against gender-based violence and discrimination. For me, gender equality means that all genders are equally valued.
For me, gender equality means equal opportunities and enjoyment of the basic human rights, access to resources, and in general public good, decent standards of living for everyone, regardless of their gender identity. And for sure, gender equality is the key for building fair and just societies.
Gender equality to me is a necessity. I think gender equality is living in a fair world. Gender equality is what's right, and I think until we don't reach that point, we are depriving ourselves of a successful society. So gender equality to me right now is in balance.
Despite progress, women and girls around the world do not fully experience the same equal rights, and their potential as social, economic, and sustainable development leaders is still untapped. In fact, women are underrepresented in power and decision-making roles. They receive unequal pay for equal jobs, and they are still targets of physical and sexual abuse.
What is the most shocking statistic with respect to achieving gender equality in the workplace you have come across lately?
I think there are many statistics out there when it comes to proving the imbalance of gender equality right now. But I think there's one out there that stands out for me, and that's the fact that only 6 countries provide women the same legal working rights as men. Only 6 countries. To put that into some kind of context, there's 195 countries in the world, and just 6 provide women the same legal working rights as men. That needs to change. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
I'm coming from Georgia. It's a small country in Caucasus region with a population of 3.5 million, and it is heartbreaking to see that until 8th of March, 8 women have been killed, murdered by their husbands, ex-husbands or partners only in 2020.
In fact, while women represent half of humanity, their underrepresentation in politics is appalling. Some of the shocking statistics that we found while we were working on our campaign is that out of 193 countries, only 19 have a female head of state or government. Women make up only 24% of members of national legislative bodies around the world, and only 4 countries have at least 50% of women in the national legislature. When women stand up and fight to move the tide, they also face violence. We found out that over 80% of women in politics have been victims of sexual violence or harassment. At this rate, it will take another 50 years to reach parity in national parliaments.
We all say that we love our families, but do we really put ourselves in their shoes in order to understand their struggles? If we say that we love our mothers, if we say that we love our grandmothers, if we say that we love our sisters, if we say that we love our wife or girlfriends, then the question is, why are we mocking and shaming them for something that they have no control over, such as their periods? Let's be real. Without menstruation, none of us would have existed. That means we should be celebrating women's period instead of mocking the women around us. If we love our mothers and sisters, then it's time to stand up with them and fight for their rights. It is time to challenge cultural and social norms that put women at a disadvantage. It is time to challenge the status quo that gives more power to some than others. It is time to fight gender-based violence and discrimination. It is time to uplift women's voices and power in our community. It is time to fight for gender equality.
What is your favorite success story of a woman who stood up for herself, paving the path for all women following her?
My favorite success story of a woman who stood up for herself is Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was only one of 9 women to join Harvard Law School in 1956, and she's always been a strong advocate for women's place in society and for their full and equal citizenship. Through her legal career, she has been a passionate opponent of laws that try to treat women as lesser than men. And the central belief to her career, which I think helped many women in society, is that because women are subjects of American democracy in this case, but democracies everywhere, just as men are, then they should also be free as men are. I really admired all the work that she's done through the years, and I strongly think that she's a great example for everyone, not just for women.
My most favorite story would have to be Erin Brockovich. It's been made into a blockbuster movie as well, and rightfully so. The reason that stands out to me as one of the best success stories is because of all the odds stacked against this wonderfully talented and powerful woman. She had a lack of qualifications. She was in a male-dominated environment that looked down on people like her, and yet she fought her way from the bottom to the very top. She reached justice for several families, and she made a real change, and I think that is a great story for anyone to look at, not just women, but for a man or a woman to look at and think, that is hugely inspirational. And to me, reading about that story, seeing the movie and doing more research into it was truly empowering. And I think that is what we need to put more of in front of us, you know, because I think a lot of people out there don't realise the power of women. And I think sometimes when women are portrayed to be superheroes, it's usually for women, when in fact I think women can be superheroes for women and for men, and I think Erin Brockovich is a fantastic representation of just that.
It is hard to name one. However, I would say that widely known Me Too movement has changed a lot up until now. Therefore, the first initiator of this movement, Elena Fabritius, back in 2006, is a role model who encouraged thousands of women around the world to speak up against sexual assault and harassment.
What is the importance of gender balance in the workplace?
Certainly, having gender balance in workplaces ensures economic improvements, but most importantly, it builds and strengthens communities, brings prosperity and well-being to the society. And when we talk about equal opportunities for everyone, it is for sure about equal gender representation in the workplaces as well.
As a humanitarian, fighting for gender equality and children's education has been the core value of my project. At Simien EcoTrick, we believe that the best way to make change where change is needed is by addressing the issues and by empowering local communities. We have done several projects to empower women and children. One of our projects is called Period, Menstruation Cycle. With this project, we have supported more than 2,000 people in Ethiopia. Our menstruation cycle project has 3 goals. First, to create awareness about and reduce the stigmatization of menstruation cycle on a national level in Ethiopia. Second, to provide environmentally friendly, reusable menstruation cycle pads for schoolgirls in a remote village of Ethiopia. And the third, to create jobs for single moms in the production of the reusable menstruation pads. These reusable pads last for 1.5 years, which makes it both economically and environmentally sustainable.
The importance of women in the workplace and to have gender equality in a working environment is crucial. It's the most important thing, I believe, to create a successful working environment, because I think women and men have different perspectives. Different men, varies in their perspectives. Different women vary in their perspectives. There's scientific facts in the sense that it proves that men and women do tend to think differently. And I think that's science, by the way. So yeah, I think it's crucial. And I think we need that in order to create a successful working environment. So I think it's paramount. I think it's hugely important. And I think without it, we are lacking. We're all lacking. We're at a deficit. So it's crucial.
Achieving gender equality is not just important because it's the right thing to do, but because it has been proven that it benefits society as a whole and businesses as well. While there has been a move towards the right direction, female workers are still paid significantly less than their male counterparts, and they continue to be underrepresented in senior management position. Only 5% of Fortune 500 CEOs is women, and the US Census Bureau in 2017 reported that women earn just 80% of what men are paid. This problem is not just restricted to the US. In fact, in Australia, the national gender pay gap remains at 14%, and in the UK, only 7% of CEOs in the FTSE 100 companies are women. But a gender balance in the workplace benefits the business as a whole. In fact, research has shown that the more gender equal companies are, the better it is for both male and females. In fact, the culture of equality in a workplace helps everyone advance to higher position, and it's a benefit for the whole business, not just for women.
Should we target 30% males in management by 2030 to see real change?
Targeting 30% of men in management roles by 2030. My thoughts on that are, I think 2 wrongs don't make right. I completely understand what that agenda means. I understand why it's there, and I understand the question. But I just feel like it's not the way forward. I think if we're trying to reach equality, that's not equality. It's just shifting the pendulum from there to there, and I think we need to be here. So do I agree with it? No. No, I don't. But I think we need to aim for gender equality, and that's not gender equality. So I get it though. I get what the purpose of it is. I think it's a good discussion to have because it will make people realize what exists today and how unfair that is. Because if that sounds unfair, look at the situation today. So I'm fully aware of that. But that's why we need equality. So yeah, let's keep pushing for that.
I think we should do much more than just target 30% of males in management by 2030. I think we should first tackle the root of the problem, which is the lack of women's representation in political position. And only by doing so, we will also be able to have more women in management position. I think that we should first tackle the lack of representation in political position because this is not just a fundamental flaw of democracy, but it's also a missed opportunity. It has been proven that female leadership and participation correlates with more inclusive governance and better economic outcomes. In fact, I think that to see more women in management position, we first need to ensure women representation in positions of powers, and then we can shift business mentalities to include more women in their boards.
It is always good to have a concrete figure that we would like to achieve by 2030. However, apart from numbers and percentages, it is also important to aim at achieving outcomes and results that can be more qualitative. On one hand, this sounds like an ambitious plan, but on the other hand, we also realize that it is okay to be ambitious to make the change.
Do you think introducing female quotas can be defended?
So, introducing female quotas, my view on that is quite simply that I think it could work, but I think there's a fine line there between picking somebody on merit and picking somebody because you must pick them. And I think we've had a similar issue with that when it comes to racial equality and, having to pick a certain amount of people because of their race. Sometimes that's purely fair, but at times that verges on tokenism. And as a person of colour myself, that's not what I want. I don't want to be hired purely because of my skin. I'm sure women don't want to be hired just because they're women. They want to be hired because they're actually sufficient for the job. So I think female quotas would be correct maybe for the short term to make it a norm to have X amount of women working in a certain environment. But I think in the long term, I don't think that's the way forward. I think gender equality, like I said, should be the norm. It shouldn't have to be forced upon you. So I think quotas are debatable. There's a case for it, and there's certainly a case against it as well.
Yes, indeed, female quotas can be a good starting point. However, it is also important to back up this direction by educating, awareness raising, and advocating and campaigning for gender equality in general. Quotas can change a current picture, but in long perspective, female quotas should be one part of much broader vision towards achieving gender equality, in my opinion.
I can for sure defend the idea of introducing female quotas. In the political world, quotas ensure that parliaments are truly reflecting the population they represent. In fact, when a parliament consists only or mainly of men, it becomes very hard to gain support for political decision and to demonstrate that every citizen can be elected. As I said, at this rate, it will take another 50 years to achieve equal representation in politics, and patiently waiting for this to happen cannot be the case. For this reason, I really believe that having tough measures is needed, and quotas in parliaments can help ensure that equal representation is achieved sooner.
Now, 2020 has been defined as the year of action, particularly with respect to climate change. How do you think gender equality can help achieve those goals as well?
The disasters that are caused by climate change are directly affecting women, and they are one of the most vulnerable groups. Therefore, empowering women ensures better response and preparedness to all these challenges that we faced around the world related to climate change.
gender equality is crucial to tackling climate change because we need to be working together on this. The people making the decisions, we can't just have a room of men, for example, making those decisions. That's not me talking down to men, because as a man myself, I do believe men are very important to the discussion. But I also feel like we need a mix of minds, and we need a mix of male, we need a mix of females. Again, I'm going to go to science. Men and women are known, it's a scientific fact that men and women think differently. So we need different ideas on the table. So when it comes to tackling climate change, we need different opinions and different ideas and different ways of thinking and different ways of approaching things. So yes, I think it goes without saying that gender equality is crucial for tackling climate change.
I strongly think that climate change is also a gender issue. In fact, across societies, the impact of climate change is felt differently by women and men. Despite women being disproportionately affected by climate change, they play a crucial role in climate change adaptation and mitigation. In fact, they have the knowledge and understanding of what is needed to adapt to changing environmental conditions, and they can come up very quickly with practical solutions. However, in most countries, there is still a largely untapped resource. Unleashing the knowledge and capability of women represents an important opportunity to craft effective and new solutions to the climate emergency that we're facing. As mentioned before, evidence show that women empowerment and advancing gender equality can benefit society as a whole. And for sure, gender equality can really help solve climate change.
Now, my final question to you is, what are the small and everyday things we can do to help push the agenda around empowering women and achieving gender equality?
As a humanitarian, fighting for gender equality and children's education has been the core value of my project. At Simien Ecotric, we believe that the best way to make change where change is needed is by addressing the issues and by empowering local communities. We have done several projects to empower women and children. One of our projects is called Period, Menstruation Cycle. With this project, we have supported more than 2,000 people in Ethiopia. Our menstruation cycle project has 3 goals. First, to create awareness about and reduce the stigmatization of menstruation cycle on a national level in Ethiopia. Second, to provide environmentally friendly, reusable menstruation cycle pads for school girls in a remote village of Ethiopia. And the third, to create jobs for single moms in the production of the reusable menstruation pads. These reusable pads last for 1.5 years, which makes it both economically and environmentally sustainable.
First thing first is that everyone should join movements and campaigns to create public awareness and push governments to pass ambitious legislation to ensure gender parity in politics. In fact, only by starting from politics, we can make sure that women are part of society as a whole. Second thing is that you should voice your support for women's rights and women's issues. You should also be aware of gender stereotypes, and you should help everyone recognize them, avoid them, and educate everyone on those stereotypes. The final thing is that everyone should stand up against harassment. Whenever you see or become aware of harassment, whether in the workplace, in the streets, or at home, or in the online space, you should raise your voice against it. Gender parity is only achieved if everyone works together towards it.
Talk about it. Don't stop talking wherever you can, such as family, friends, social media, or forums or conferences. We need to be loud and visible, and we need to be heard.
I think the answer is pretty simple. I think we need to come together. So that's men and women, no matter where you work, no matter where you are. If you see an imbalance, if you see inequality, if you see people having double standards, you need to call them out. You need to call people out. It's about time that we took this into our own hands. Men, you know, I think often people think men aren't part of this gender equality debate. I think men are crucial to it, because we can't just have the women fighting for this. You know, we need the men. The men need to speak up for the women at times. Yes, women will say, we don't need men. Sometimes men just need to be there regardless of whether women need us or not. So I think if you're in environments where you're seeing a clear difference, where you're seeing a clear bias, you need to call it out. You need to call it out. And I think until we don't call things out, things won't change. So I think it starts with all of us. But I want to see more men talking about it. I feel like men, like I said, sometimes feel a bit, you know, excluded from the conversation. That could be for various reasons. But I think we also need to take it into our own hands, men, boys. Let's help the women on this one. And I think if we all come together collectively, I think we can solve this. I'm sure we can. I think it's the only answer for us to move forward. We need gender equality. We need to empower women and girls to move forwards together as a society.
Now the question is, what are you doing in your community to make changes where change is needed?
Thanks everyone for being part of this debate, and please do get commenting and sharing this to really get this really important discussion going.